Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of the Shiji Buzz live at ITB Berlin. My name is Daniel Craig, and it's my pleasure to moderate this panel. Our topic today is hospitality killing, is automation killing hospitality or saving it? Now, since the pandemic, automation has received a lot of buzz in the hotel industry as a cure-all for hotels wishing to overcome staffing shortages, save costs, and serve guests more efficiently. But do guests really want automation? And does automation make hotel jobs more enriched, or does it make them redundant? Today, we'll debate the pros and cons of hotel automation. And our expert panelists today are Mark Rademacher, Global Head Hospitality with Adyen. We have Lucas Heffer, who is the Senior Director of Systems and
Innovation Management.
Innovation Management. These are big titles with Ruby Hotels. And then we have Wolfgang Emperger, who is the Senior Vice President with Shiji Group here in Europe. So thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. It's great to have you. Thought we'd kick things off and ask the big question. What do you think? Is automation killing hospitality or saving it? Let's start with you, Wolfgang.
Okay, great. Thank you, Daniel. My view is the automation is certainly not killing hospitality. We live through all kind of challenges, as you already said, Mark, in the intro, with the pandemic and more. So a lack of automation is certainly not killing our industry. It lives through a lot. I would probably say it's not saving it either, because we can deal with a lot. It's probably more enhancing it, I would say. Really putting automation into play to give the option of full service or automation, a low touch to the customer, to your guests. I'm a frequent traveler myself, traveling 50, 60, to a certain extent, 7% of my time. And I like the challenge, I like the difference between I'm enjoying the full touch service of a full service hotel, whilst I enjoy the low touch service, getting in and out of hotels quickly. When you travel a lot, you don't want to spend a lot of time checking in, providing your data multiple times. And that's why I still see one of the biggest issues in the front of the house. There's also a lot of automation possible in the back of the house. But focus in front of the house, we still live with all those data silos. Which crumbles me is that you have to provide your data 2, 3, sometimes even 4 times through the life of a hotel stay, between reservation, check-in, check-out. So one of my focus would be really to use AI, to use automation in order to more harmonize the data flow, harmonize the data to enhance the guest experience, so that when you enter it one time with an OTA or with Brand.com directly, that it flows throughout the system. And with that, you're actually enhancing hospitality because you're putting automation in place in order to allow the hosts, the employees, which is a labor shortage, to focus more on the guest experience.
Okay, thank you, Wolfgang. Mark, what's your take on this question?
Well, I think Wolfgang said it really well. I mean, that's a really good point to make. And I would certainly argue from the tech side, I would think that we are able to help building better enhanced customer guest journeys with hospitality through automation, actually. So when you think about some of these luxury properties that we work with, right, there's a lot of apprehension around whether or not automation actually helps build better journeys or not. And what we found actually through some of our first couple studies was actually that, in fact, once by adding some of that automation, it allows some of that front desk staff for a mobile check-in experience, for example, then allowing them to free up from behind the desk, float around the reception, helping them to get a better experience. And what we drew from that was actually that NPS scores, for instance, improved as a result of automation. So I think there's a lot to argue that it can help enhance the hospitality experience.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. My next question is about whether or not guests want automation. And as a guest here in Berlin of a hotel, I arrived at my hotel on Sunday night, and I picked the hotel because it had a pool. And when I arrived, the front desk told me that the pool was out of order, which was disappointing. But they had sent me all these automated messages, including they upsold me to a suite, which was great, or a bigger room. But they did not take the opportunity to automate that message that the pool was closed and warn me in advance. So my question for you, Lucas, is do guests really want automation?
I think, Daniel, thanks for the question, first of all. I think it really comes down to your concept, right? So for us at Ruby, automation is the mean to an end, not the end itself, right? And we believe that there are high-value touchpoints throughout the guest journey, as there are low-value touchpoints throughout the guest journey. And automation you can use on the one hand to take away or reduce the low-value touchpoints as much as possible, while helping to strengthen, to emphasize the high-value touchpoints, right? And as an example here, right, I want to provide the check-in experience, right? I mean, it's incredibly low value to fill out forms, say where you're from, what's your birthday, and the number code of your passport. Whereas it's very high value that the person welcoming you has the right information to actually make you feel recognized, meet you on an emotional level, right? And I mean, that is being done by saying, hey, great that you're back again. How was your travel from XYZ today? And by the way, I would really recommend breakfast because it's a great experience in our hotel. And that brings me to the saying overall, I mean, buying things should never be difficult. So hence, the more automation supports just getting the incentive, hey, yeah, that makes sense for me, right? And then driving the conversion, the better. The more time can be spent in the experience.
Sure, which is obviously really important for hotels if automation can generate revenue. It helps to pay for the cost of automation, which worked really well with that upsell for me. Now, question for you, Wolfgang. Do you think that automation enriches hotel jobs in the industry or makes them redundant?
Again, I think it's actually both. It does certainly make a certain amount of jobs redundant in the limited budget sector. But on the other hand, do you necessarily want to make those jobs redundant? Or you, in the current situation, you may not find staffing for certain back office functions, like accounting, matching line items, matching payments versus the reservation record, where you actually are forced to automate that. So it's not really making the job redundant. It's kind of, as we had in the question one, saving you actually in hospitality to keep the back office function going. On the other hand, my strong belief is, and this is what we see with most of our clientele as well, they're enriching existing jobs. So they're putting automation in use in order to remove simple repetitive tasks from their employees, so that the employees actually focus back on where we actually initially came from: provide hospitality, provide service to the guest. And that is then actually a win-win situation, because it's actually employee improvement, employee satisfaction increase, because they have a higher value job, don't spend the time on simple tasks, versus you also spend more time serving and giving service to the guest. And I have a great example that just happened a couple of weeks ago at a 1.5-star, 2-star limited service budget in Amsterdam. I'm coming back to my check-in, check-out process, which is always quite cumbersome. I need to enter my information every time again. And this is one of the top 10 brands which have a pretty cool app, but it somehow doesn't store my company address, which I need for creating my expenses for the company. So at that particular hotel, somehow that process worked magically. And in the morning, I had an Uber order for 5. I go normally down 10 minutes early because I know I need to repeat my invoice address over and over again. And this time the guy showed me the tablet, address was correct. So I said, okay, now I need to wait 10 minutes for the Uber. But suddenly he said, okay, sir, can I offer you a coffee? I said, breakfast is not open, it's still closed. So we went into the closed breakfast room. He fired up the coffee machine, gave me a coffee, served me the coffee. I took the coffee in my Uber off to Amsterdam airport. While I had no expectation of the total of that stay, I actually came out with a great guest experience. And alone me telling you this experience today of this 2-star budget hotel shows you that I actually came out, no expectation, with a huge recommendation for that hotel, which I will share, including the names with my peers.
Okay, so positive experience for
no,
you,
very-
not so positive with me. Lucas, let's get back to you. As the hotelier here on the panel, can you tell us a little bit more about how Ruby Hotels uses automation?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as any other company, right, Ruby in some aspects is very highly automated, in some aspects less so, correct? And one area here that might be interesting to the audience, since this includes both partners, one area in which we're very highly automated is our financial department, right? Because as an example, here we achieved together with RDN and Shiji Enterprise Platform to develop a flow in which payment commission data is already automatically being reconciled. And that is not the whole thing, right? But it's one of the cornerstones that leads us at Ruby to having an industry-leading FTE key in our financial department, right? Other areas in which we are highly automated are, for example, our sales team, our sales department, right? I mean, here we work with over 50 to 60 different data flow and workflow automations to really bump up productivity and volume of our sales rep, right? And since we've started that initiative, we've driven that volume or the productivity by the factor of 3. I mean, that is insane. That is, as a sales rep, you get 3 times as much done, 3 times as much business than you did before you were automated.
Interesting. As a former hotel sales manager, well, I love the idea of automation in sales. So can the sales department, can they just go for lunch with clients and the automation automatically does the cold calling for them?
I mean, for some people that might be the dream, right? But
Right.
I think also here, this principle of high value, low value, who are you as a concept, right?
Sure.
Comes to carry, meaning that we support our agents by making it super easy for them to present proposals, to sign contracts, to be reminded of following up, to generating oversight for managers, right? So that they can spend all their time, their empathy, their personality, together with the prospects and the clients. Right. And that helps the clients then to build an emotional connection with us as a business and come and close that contract.
Absolutely.
And if I may add to that, and I think that's also a strong focus of us, because in hospitality or hoteliers are great collecting data, hoarding data. We are like, hunters for data. But then the gold in the data lies when you put it to use. Like you said, I think it's a great example, because normally we always focus on the front desk, but sales departments, other partners can use this as well. And our goal is also within Shiji is really to take the sheer amount of data and collect it into small consumable bites at the point and at the time when you need it. For example, a sales point, it is my production data for last year. When I negotiate with you, you need to know, guys, Shiji, you produced 2,000 nights at 150 euro average rate last year. And the other thing is where we are focused on, from coming back to front desk operation, I need to have exactly that what you said, Daniel, before, the relevant information about your preferences. You booked for the pool. They should immediately offer you a compensation or a gimmick for that in order to still say, okay, the pool, I expected it. I was looking forward. I'm disappointed. But those guys got me immediately out of it. So your experience may even be better because they immediately rectified an issue that can always happen. It's just a crazy world out there. But they immediately rectified it, notified it, because the agent knew it at that time and offered you something even of a perceived higher value to you at that time.
Just for the record, they did give me free breakfast every day for 5 days.
Okay.
Wow. So
okay.
I was like, great, I'm fine without the pool. So it was really well rectified. But they didn't have to spend that money. The point is, they have the automated tools, and that's one of the challenges is investing in the technology, but then actually ensuring that staff are using it to its fullest capabilities. Now, let's get back to you, Mark. What do you think hotels should do to ensure successful automation?
Yeah, I think Ruby's pointed out some great success stories, and that's obviously one of the reasons why they're on the panel, to be able to share that today. I think for us, one of the areas that we see as a complexity around driving automation is really that marriage between operations and also your innovation technology teams. There's one hand saying, let's build technology, then there's operations saying, how do we manage and grow this technology? And I think that's really been a really difficult experience for some hotels. And oftentimes that leads to technology being implemented at that last mile just before a hotel opens, and then you don't have the operations fully trained up. So it really needs to be a complete buy-in across all the organization to understand where innovation and where automation is going to drive. I think the second thing, which is really important, is making the rest of the organization understand what is the value of automation, to our earlier discussion, right? So we are in an industry that can be very finance heavy, and in order to make others understand that, there's a value that we bring. So that the successful automation rollouts we've seen has been those that have been willing to A/B test, trial, do pilots in certain hotels, and then measure that success, really. What is driving automation? How does that help your FTEs? Those are the things that we really want to capture so that we can make the rest of the organization from a financial standpoint understand what that is. And I think the final thing is really around partnerships. A lot of people understand a little bit about technology and automation, but don't truly pull back a couple layers to understand who's driving that technology. In this industry, we rely very heavily on partnerships. For instance, Shiji's got some fantastic products that we've worked on together that has really kind of helped open the new guest experiences. But that doesn't happen without partners. So we really do need to work very closely together to make sure that we build those for the long term. And I would encourage all of the hoteliers to really think about how you can understand the partnerships and how they will future-proof your payment needs and your automation and driving technology in the future.
Excellent, excellent points. Thank you. Okay, before we go, we'll ask some questions from the audience. One last question for each of you. I'll give you a minute to respond. It's a huge question. You've got a minute. What do you think the future of automation is in hotels? Are we moving toward, will fully automated hotels be the norm in the future? Start with you, Wolfgang.
I think I made my points already very clear in the two previous answers, but in the end, it will be needed in order to survive, because with the staff shortage, certain repetitive tasks will not be able to avoid, and they need to be automated in the future. So it has to be there. The other thing is really focusing back on the guest service. But my main point is, and this is partly as what Mark just said as well, is the partnership. I see so many half-baked tries of hoteliers trying to implement something which they think is going to be the savior of our industry, whilst it's actually a dissatisfaction to the guest. You announce in certain things where you raise the expectation of the guest, and then my best example, again, happening with the top chain still, is a half-baked pre-arrival or pre-check-in process, where you expect, you just step into the hotel and walk to your room. No, you still got to queue up, and all they did is pre-print the reg card. If you do it that way, don't automate at all. Think about it first, and then come back to it when you mastered it. And of course, there's companies like Adyen and like Shiji, and there's hoteliers doing it very well, like Ruby, that will help and can assist you with that process.
Okay, thank you, Wolfgang. Lucas.
The future of automation in hospitality, correct? I think the future of hospitality in the hotel industry will be sort of a unified commercial experience. It will be an experience where it's very intuitive and seamless to book, but also to get other experiences that are related to the pure room product, right? And I feel we will just see that development towards that, seriously, just one-click booking and receiving of room and other adjacent services.
Okay, all right, the very utopian world of automation. How about you, Mark?
It's always fun to go last. I think both I would agree with. I would also add that for us, I think we saw through the pandemic the need for hoteliers to be able to pivot, right? I think it's important to have that able, whenever the need would arise, hopefully not in the near future, but having a successful foundation for your technology stack is going to be really critical to be able to do that. So that unlocks all the new opportunities you would need to have. And I think about upselling, a lot of the other areas where there's some really great innovation that's happening. I think that's going to be a key area for us in the future. So that'll be interesting too.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, gentlemen. How are we for time? We have a few minutes for questions. Franca? All right, excellent. Any questions from the audience regarding hotel automation?
Hello. I'm from Mining Hotels. So I'm from the accommodation sector. I just want to ask, do you think in regards to general contact with a guest, for example, chat prior or during stay, or maybe after stay, we've seen here there are AI review answering. Do you think automation or an automatic reply to guests either during stay or before stay or even after stay, is this a good thing? Would it be killing hospitality or saving it?
Who would you like to take that question?
I can answer, but I would also like to hear Lucas's feedback on that particular question. It sounds like you had a demo from one of our systems earlier, because this is exactly what we do. We do not want to wait until the guest leaves the hotel or leaves a bad review on TripAdvisor, Booking, or whatever, one holiday check, one of those review sites. We would like to touch the sentiment already during the stay. And exactly coming back to Daniel's example, if the issue with the pool would have not been identified earlier, they can actually get in touch with you, say to guests, are you enjoying your stay? Is there anything? And then you can raise your voice and say, okay, guys, here there's something wrong. And then the hotel has the opportunity to rectify that. And as I said, I have the strong belief mistakes happen. But if you come back strong on that mistake, the guest satisfaction is even higher than it would have been without that mistake.
Very good points, all of them. Maybe I can just add a little to it. The question relates to the use of AI and chatbots in all kinds of digital services around the stay. And I mean, of course, that's going to be a game changer. Yeah, it's going to be a technology that enables a whole different productivity level in all back of house processes relating to service. Right, and I don't think we're going to see that one day where you plug the switch and then all of a sudden there is a chatbot live on the website. Let's say it for easy, but it will be a gradually extension of these technologies supporting transactional services within the back of house processes. So, and in fact, today at Ruby Hotels we're already using that to some degree. Right, of course there is some knowledge base that suggests articles, right, based on what kind of service inquiry the guest has. So I would say we're already on the way to deploying that full scale, and it's going to be much, much more important. And it's going to be a game changer that is supplying a competitive edge to businesses for sure.
Thank you, Lucas. Should we go on? Another question from the audience.
Hi. This is a question that's come up a lot on the stand today, so I thought I would ask the panel, and thank you very much for your discussion so far. So when we look at automation, how much do you think guest profiles are going to play in how automation is used within the guest experience in the next 6, 9, 12 months?
Okay, so essentially traveler type, how does attitudes toward automation vary by traveler type? Okay. Mark?
I think that's a really great point, actually, and we're seeing that as well. I mean, you know, the importance of bifurcating leisure versus business travel and understanding what are the needs of a guest, right? Is the pool going to be really important for me during this stay or not? If I come with a family, how does that change my behavior? So I think building the profiles is key. To be honest, I think we still have a long way to go. There's still a lot we need to do. You know, we want to know our guests more, but we don't want to be, I think, overreaching as well and making sure that we're not overextending ourselves. At the end of the day, hospitality is about providing a really good service, and we don't want to lose sight of that. And I think sometimes when you're in these forums, it gets really easy to start focusing on data and what do we need to build to focus on our guests. But really just the guest experience and getting that right, I think that's paramount, first of all.
Absolutely. Did either of you want to add to that?
Yeah, maybe just one little comment to that, and it goes to what I said before. We have all the data there, so it's not that we don't have the data. We just need to put it to use, look for the right partners that are doing that. We were invited by one of our dear customers and friends, Kempinski, at the Adlon last night, and they really put huge due diligence into understanding their guests. Because when you arrive at the Adlon paying 700-800 euros a night, you expect a perfect guest service. And they understand, they do and they call it, they don't have a full CRM process, but they have a certain profile intelligent process. So they focus on this very aspect that you mentioned to truly understand and then to deliver exactly to that guest for the purpose of the stay. Today I'm a business traveler, tomorrow I'm a leisure traveler alone, next weekend I'm traveling with my family. I'm gonna, look at every penny I spend. So 3 different profiles in one person.
Okay, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. Sorry we didn't get to everybody's answers, but I'm not sure that we've solved the question in a half hour, whether or not automation is killing hospitality or saving it, but certainly not killing it. I think we'd all agree. And as you said, Mark, there's huge potential. We're in the early stages for automation to do some wonderful things for hospitality. So stay tuned. Thank you so much to our panelists, Mark Rademacher with Adyen, Lucas Heffer with Ruby Hotels, and Wolfgang Amperger with Shiji Group. Feel free to come and chat with our panelists if you'd like, or talk to anybody within Shiji Group to talk about how your hotel can leverage automation in the future. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Well,